Second longest streak in team as we go on the scene to the Target Center and Dave McMiniman. So, Dave, what are the T-Wolves saying about righting the ship at home tonight?
The Wolves have really struggled at home in these playoffs. So just 3-3 and at home, but actually 1-3 of their last 4. And Rudy Gobert told me this morning at shoot-around, they've been discussing this over the last several days, recognizing that sometimes there's more noise and distractions at home, and really they should be setting boundaries with their friends and family to try to stay focused. Rudy told me, I've been working my butt off for the last 11 years to try to get to this point of an NBA playoff run, and so he's going to have to make some tough decisions to try to stay focused when he's at home. Included in those tough decisions is his baby boy. Just 2 weeks ago, his partner and him welcomed a new baby boy to the world, but he said, hey, if that means while dad is working in the NBA playoffs and I can't sleep with my son, I'm going to have to make that decision. And he said, good thing that I know that I have a great mom taking care of my little baby boy.
I mean, that tracks. I look for any excuse not to have to get up in the middle of the night with my kids. I'm just saying, and they're like 6 years old. Minnesota is at a 5.5-point favorite tonight, so Vegas does think that they're going to right that ship. But for more on the other side of this, let's get it over to Jay.
All right, El. Kyrie Irving has made a big old habit of performing on the road, recording his second 30-point road game of the postseason on Wednesday. That is one shy of his most in a single postseason behind 2016, when he and the Cavaliers won the NBA title. And here is Kyrie today at shoot-around.
It was a great first half. Felt like I was just pacing the game a little bit and just making sure we got off the floor. I was understanding that they were coming off of Game 7, so they could have been a little fatigued, but we just wanted to stay aggressive and make sure that we took advantage of the easy opportunities. And in the second half, I like to say that Luka joined the party, my teammates joined the party, and when we're playing well like that, it goes a long way in terms of just our poise and just being comfortable in the game. We understand we're going against a great team, like I said, but we just got to keep staying aggressive and make sure that they feel us as well.
All right, Tim McMahon with us now with more on the Mavs. Tim, just heard what Kyrie is saying to the media, but what message is he sending to his teammates ahead of Game 2 tonight?
Howdy, Jay. Kyrie's all about positive vibes and affirmations, but he's also emphasizing just how precious of an opportunity this is. Do not take this for granted, he tells his teammates. And he admits he fell into that trap early in his career, going to 3 finals by the age of 25, but he hasn't been back to the finals since he left Cleveland. That's 7 years ago. And he says, hey, a lot of things had to fall into place for us to have this chance. One of those things, obviously, is his dynamic with Luka and just the way they feed off each other, the way they play off each other. Part of Kyrie's leadership for this team is figuring out when he needs to be aggressive, when he kind of needs to seize control, and when he needs to fade into more of a complementary role and let Luka cook. And, he says one of the strengths of this team is their ability to adapt and adjust on the fly.
Yeah, we heard that the other night. He said he sensed this guy was a little nervous, so he came out and took control early. We'll see what happens tonight. Tim McMahon with the latest on Dallas. Meanwhile, Tony and Pablo now with more on tonight's PTI bonus topic.
All right, Pablo. How will the Timberwolves respond tonight?
I have them winning, Tony, because I believe in Anthony Edwards. That's the question to me here. Kyrie Irving has been fantastic at the end of games. The Mavericks, by the way, just the general idea that 2 years ago you would have told me, who's going to be really trustworthy basically across the board? Kyrie Irving. And who's going to be playing like Michael Jordan, Anthony Edwards? I would have questioned what drugs someone had slipped into my drink. But that's what we're dealing with right now. And the question is whether Anthony Edwards is going to live up to the idea that he is a closer too. And he's lived up to it, winning in 7 games against the Nuggets. I think he takes over the series with Game 2 tonight.
Yeah, I think it's on him. He's 12 of 40 in his last 2 games. That's 30% shooting. That's really, you're not a superstar if you're shooting 12 of 40. Look, I don't think it's necessarily a critical game because you can't lose a best-of-7 series 2-0. And we all know that in the last series, Minnesota lost 2 games at home and still beat Denver. That is the greatest accomplishment of the playoffs so far is Minnesota beating Denver. And now we are down to 4 teams. And this is a very bright light on Minnesota for the first time. They earned it by beating Denver in Game 7, but this is a brighter light than they have ever seen before. It's a brighter light than Anthony Edwards has ever played in before. Not necessarily all the players. And the coach of that team called him out. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the last time the coach of that team called him out, it was about Karl Anthony Towns. and he took too many shots and he was going for some sort of scoring record. And the coach said, this is not the way we play. And the team responded great after that. This, I believe, is the next time he's called them out. So like you, I believe they will respond great. I do.
Yeah, they won in 7 games in the de facto NBA Finals against the Nuggets, and now it's time for them to take charge again, reassert themselves, as I must reassert myself here by saying, that is it, we are done. Back to you.
Thanks, fellas. So the Celtics and Pacers obviously get the night off, but we're following this developing story. Indiana point guard Tyrese Halliburton, a question mark for tomorrow's Game 3 because of a sore hamstring. If you watched, you'll know that he left last night, 16-point loss in the third quarter, scored only 10 points. Hamstring injuries tend to nag. He missed 10 games in January with the same injury as his team finds themselves in a 2-0 hole. And we welcome in our NBA reporter Brian Windhorst. Windy, what more can you tell us about Halliburton's status to return in Game 3?
Yeah, this qualifies as good news because they said that it was hamstring soreness, not a hamstring strain. Now, that hamstring strain almost certainly would have knocked him out. The concern that you have here is, as you mentioned, this is the same hamstring where he had that serious injury back in January that really has impacted his season. They were going to have to keep a very close eye on him. And the other thing I'm going to point out, the hamstring was bothering him before he suffered that tweak in the third quarter. He got treatment at halftime of the game, so this is something that's been ongoing and something that they'll have to treat over the next 24 hours and see where he is. Obviously, a loss tomorrow night pretty much ends the Pacers season, so this is a difficult situation. Also, I want to point out, Kristaps Porzingis ruled out by the Celtics with that calf injury. Look for him to possibly come back on Monday in Game 4.
Again, this is a Pacers team that found themselves in a 2-0 hole in the last round against the Knicks, but no Tyrese Halliburton would certainly put them at a disadvantage. And ESPN Bet thinks that the Pacers currently 6.5-point dogs at home for Game 3. Brian Windhorst with the latest. Thank you, Wendy. Jay?
L to the NFL, where the Kansas City Chiefs aren't just answering questions about a possible three-peat. They're answering questions about kicker Harrison Butker's commencement speech at a Catholic college. Butker, in his speech, taking issue with diversity and inclusion and saying women have been told diabolical lies about having careers while praising women as homemakers. Patrick Mahomes says Butker's a good teammate, but he doesn't share his views. Travis Kelce reacting on his podcast with his brother Jay.